Back when I used to be a student, a great and wise teacher once told me,
Mr. Vadia, there are no bad students, only bad teachers. Chuck, chuck.
Those were the good old days. Every once in a while, though, I'll still have these trembling fears inside me, and I'll remember something else she once told me. If you're ever afraid, write those fears down on a piece of paper, fold them into the best paper airplane that you can, and let those babies soar. As my airplane soared in the sky, I remembered she used to tell us, if you let it, you can make your biggest fears become air beneath your wings. Hey guys, and welcome to the review of Hichki, a 2018 film directed by Siddharth P. Malhotra, starring Rani Mukherji. And right off the bat, I just got to start by saying, overall, I enjoyed the film. It kind of tackled the subject matter in a respectable manner, and I appreciate that. I got the impression that the way the movie was made, not a lot of people in India know about Tourette syndrome. As a matter of fact, people in the comments, when we reacted to Hichki in general, people were telling us, hey, I didn't even know about this. This is bringing it to my attention. So for that, I have to commend the film right off the bat for doing that, because it is a real life thing that people do suffer from. I knew one kid in high school. After the last review, or excuse me, the trailer reaction, I was, thought about it, and I did know one kid in high school with Tourette's, and he was also special needs, and they're not always. That's not how it always is, but a lot of people assume that because you do have this tic where you can't control, and so people like to associate Tourette syndrome with some sort of mental disorder, and it is, but it's not something that you can control, but it doesn't affect your intelligence, as they highlight numerous times throughout the movie. Again, I really appreciate that, really commend the filmmakers for bringing this disease, for lack of a better word, into the spotlight, because it is a real thing. People do suffer from it. I enjoyed Rani's performance as the teacher. At times I felt like she was overusing her tics, but I wouldn't blame that on her per se. I would definitely blame that on the writers and the directors, because it's not as frequent as it was being displayed in the movie, or excuse me, for people who are suffering from it, it's not always as frequent, I should say, because it always depends on the person. So, maybe in her particular case it was that bad, but there is a spectrum, there is a range, it's not always going to be out and about just all over the place like this. But with that in mind, there was a lot of positive from her performance, especially towards the end of the movie, where she really loses control of herself and she just blames herself for everything that's kind of gone wrong in the film, and she's slapping herself and all this. And it was very powerful, very emotional, very intense, and the movie earned it. So hats off to that. Not only that, I really appreciated the children's performance. I felt like unilaterally the children in 9F were perfect slices of life, what I would assume to represent Indian children. At least from that part of town. I wouldn't say it's the most accurate. I would just take the assumption that not everyone is that mean or that harsh or blowing things up in the classroom. But for a story, I get it. I understand it. Let me know in the comments, though, if that's true. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is exactly how troublemaker students are in India. Please let me know. Just because here in the States, we do get movies from time to time that are message films. I'm sure a lot of other American reactors or reviewers have said that this movie reminded them of Freedom Writers. And it kind of does feel that way. But Freedom Writers was what I would consider Hollywoodized. It was definitely made for the mass audiences. There's not every single black kid is like this. Not every single school that's in the ghetto is as bad as it was in Freedom Writers. They do exist, but it's not across the board like that. And so it kind of gives this misconception too about students, and so I'm just curious to know how accurate it is, and if that bothered you going into it, or if you just watched the movie for the story and you don't really care. Again, let me know, because how I watched it as a foreigner, I can't really comment it because I don't know. But if this were an American film, I definitely would be using that against the film, because it was a little hammy at times. It just kind of fell over the top, but for the most part, it was pretty grounded. So there was a section in the movie that really spoke to me, and it was right around the time of parent conferences. And none of the students' parents that Rani was teaching, none of the parents came to her conference. And that's because they were considered to be lower class citizens who were working all the time, didn't have the time for a parent-teacher conference. And so she decided to go out and go to these parents' houses themselves and talk to them in person. And for the most part, most of them were working, as I just said, but there was one moment where she met one or two of the parents as they were in line getting water. And it kind of spoke to me because it was a powerful scene, because you really think, wow, that's pretty bad. And even, you know, I like to think that, oh, I don't have everything I want in life and all this stuff, but it really, I don't want to say it makes you feel bad or anything like that, because I don't want to sound like a white savior or some American feeling sorry for the rest of the world, because it's not like how it is in the States. But it does, you know, pull on those human emotion strings, because I personally feel like no human being should ever have to fight for water. It's a basic necessity. And so, again, let me know in the comments how bad it is, or is it only in the poorer neighborhoods? Is this a reflection of just a small little section of India, or is this like a larger problem across the whole country? Please let me know in the comments, because it was just something that was different. I mean, you just don't see that side of India and a lot of the things that we react to be honest with you, because it's negative. I mean, it's not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. Maybe some of you out there do think it's a good thing, but I don't think that you should ever have to fight for these basic necessities. I mean, it reminded me of Mad Max, the newest Mad Max, where there's literally no water and there's only one guy who's controlling it, and there's just everyone's fighting over this water supply. But we don't live in Mad Max post-apocalyptic world. There's water everywhere. So the fact that this is going on, it is pretty sad. But the movie touches upon it, and it doesn't really go into detail and give you, knock you over the head with commentary, but it does show you that aspect, and I really appreciated that. Let's shift to the negatives, because there was quite a few negatives. One of the major ones was how rude these people were to the teachers, to the students. I mean, there was no acceptance whatsoever, that there was no shadow of a doubt that all these people were just failures. Everyone they just knew they were failures. And again, I don't know how it is in India, but in America, they love to throw that in movies that deal with troubled students, that they're failures and they're no good, you know, they're nothings, they're nobodies. And because those are just stereotypes that are conveyed through all media and all this stuff. So in a movie, it just really just clamors all this, the stereotypes together as one piece, and I felt like that's what was going on here. And because there's just no way it could be that bad. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be bad principals out there, there's going to be bad teachers out there, all this stuff, etc., etc. But to be that bad, where you just completely disregard them as human beings, I just don't buy it. I just genuinely don't buy it. I did not like, you know what? No, I'm going to say it. I hated the plot twist with the janitor about how he was involved with the answers and all of this bullshit. I understand as a screenwriter, you have to figure out a way to present these answers to the students so they could cheat, but you can't have a student do it, but you can't have the teacher do it either, because they all have to be innocent. That's the whole point of it, right? I get it, because it's a twist. If you showed the student going and giving the other student the answers, then you're going to know right away that the student is the one who rigged the game and it wasn't just the janitor. If you have the teacher do it, you're going to think he's evil from the beginning, and it's just, or more evil, I should say. And so from that perspective, I get it. It was just poor. It was terrible, especially when you introduce that janitor as always helping Hichki out. And I call her Hichki, even though that's not her name, but I call her that. From the beginning, he was super nice to her and everything. And so for him to demolish this classroom was so out of left field. It was terrible. Hated it. It kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you, because it just felt so false and fake. And everything that the movie was trying to go for in terms of being a little bit more realistic, in terms of dealing with harder subject matter like Tourette syndrome, it just kind of threw it away just to make a better story, and I didn't necessarily agree with that. I hated the father as well. He kept showing up at weird times, and I understand he wasn't always there for his kid, but it's your fucking child, man. How can you be that savage and ruthless and just ordering for your kid all the time? I mean, the mom seemed to understand it, so why the hell couldn't the father understand it? I really don't get it. I mean, again, if he left because of that, I get it. I understand that. I understand why he might not be as accepting of it, or it might really bother him. But at some point, man, you got to grow up. I mean, Hichki was not 15 when the father decided to come back in this movie. She was a grown-ass adult. So to me, it just seemed false. And I understand, again, that not every story is unique to the whole world, right? Obviously, this is the one story that tells this one message. So maybe this one father was this mean. I get it. But that doesn't mean I have to like it, because I didn't. So this next thing, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it per se. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was just weird. There was definitely this weird incestuous vibe going on with Hichki and the brother. I mean, they were just smiling at each other too nicely and just touching it. It just felt weird. I don't know. I don't want to say, well, maybe that's how all Indians are with their siblings. Maybe it is, but you know, you can let me know in the comments. But for those who've seen the movie, did you also feel that way, or am I crazy? Because I know, I mean, I don't have any siblings, so it's hard for me to really judge. But I know if I would be watching other people's siblings that I know and they were acting that way, I'd start to say, hey, what the fuck is going on here? Are you guys like doing something here? I don't know. It was just weird. They were, like I said, they were really nice, but it was just a step beyond that. And it could have just been how it was edited. I mean, they held on shots for certain periods of time that were, in my opinion, just a tad bit too long. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have thought about this in the first place. In summary, I mean, the movie was pretty good for what it was. I wouldn't add this to my collection of movies. Like I said, it was in the vein of what a Freedom Writers would be to me, which is you watch it once, you get the message, you get the impact, you hope that it helps other people learn about this for the first time, but then further to explore this message and to go deeper, to learn more about Tourette's maybe, to be more accepting of other people who are not exactly like you, who maybe do have tics or something like that. I mean, just to be honest with you guys, I have my own thing that I have to deal with every single day that I've dealt with my entire life. It doesn't have to do with, you know, tics. I'm not doing anything like this, but my hands and my feet, this right here, it's called hyperhidrosis. Look it up. I'm not going to go into it, but look that up. Suffered with that shit my entire life, and it's been embarrassing. I've been in those moments that the Hichki teacher was in, where you're getting made fun of by doing things you can't control. It's fucking tough, man. It really is tough. So I did connect with it on that level, which is why I said the performance was good. You know, it was overused because every time they went out in a restaurant, you know, someone was looking at her because she had to do all this. It's not that bad. People aren't that bad. Maybe it is in India because they don't know about it. That I will, you know, agree with. But at least here in the States, people tend to look the other way if you do have something wrong with you. But there are assholes out there. Trust me, I've encountered a lot of them, especially growing up Catholic, and you have to hold hands with people at church. I mean, that was a nightmare. I mean, I can get into that in another video if you want, but all in all, like I said, the message was strong enough for me to enjoy. So overall, score of 1 to 10. For me, this is a solid 6. The movie looked great, cinematography-wise. The editing, you know, kept everything together. It could have easily fallen apart because there was just so much outrageous stuff that was going on towards the middle of the film. But it all kept it together. It even made the twist also worked, for lack of a better word. I didn't like it, but that's all credit to the editing and the writing. Yeah, just overall, like I said, it's a 6 out of 10. And but yeah, so with that, guys, that'll do it for this review. Thank you for checking it out and staying with me for the past 10 minutes, however long this review ends up being. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you liked it. Let me know in the comments what you felt, whether you liked this review, whether you disagreed with me or anything. Let me know what you dealt with as a child. I'd be curious to know what problems you guys have, because we all have problems, and I think that's a good way to further the message of Hichki, to continue to just be honest and open and say, hey, yeah, I suffered with this, and people made fun of me all the time, but now I know about it, and now I'm okay with, I've accepted it. Some people never accept it. I've accepted it. It sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I can get a little surgery to do things, but I'm not going to. Anyway, I'm going to start rambling again. I'm not going to do that. So, again, thank you for watching this video. Be on the lookout for Boggy 2 tomorrow. I'll be reviewing that. And, yeah, let's check out any of these videos down below.